Hey, and welcome to another episode of us reviewing new foods, because
yes,
this is not sponsored, although KFC, if you'd like to sponsor us, our DMs are open. But we just tried the Beyond Nuggets from KFC, and mind blown.
Yeah. Like truly, because you've had I'm sure you've had plant-based chicken before.
Yeah.
This was like
and it
a
still
whole
tastes
other
like vegetables.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not quite there.
This was a whole other step, and like you would like bite into it, and you'd look at you'd look at it, and you're like, "This looks like chicken," and it tastes like chicken,
like square chicken nuggets. The only thing that gives it away is that they're all just squares.
Yeah,
amazing.
And the shout out to KFC for the chicken dipping sauce.
Yes,
that was a good sauce to go with it.
It was. It's pretty much Chick-fil-A sauce, but don't tell Chick-fil-A that.
Yes, it's just a tiny bit, maybe a little bit more paprika in it.
But you're not here to hear us talk about nugget reviews. You're here to listen to the show. So,
but wait, can we have a nugget review section in our show?
I don't want to eat nuggets every time we do this.
That's probably a good point.
That's a lot of nuggets.
True.
I'm Leah.
And I'm Beth Ann.
And this is She Will Rock You.
Where are they getting a dub in a CBS executive meeting?
No. Bitch, don't touch my thermostat.
The ghost be like, hold up, before I haunt you, let me turn down the thermostat. Who is this band?
We're on page 1, guys. This is She Will Rock You. I don't think we have any, main business to talk about, but it's been a while since I've begged you all for a review. So if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you have Apple Podcasts or Spotify and that's not where you listen, leave us a review. If you leave it on Apple, a comment really helps about what you like about the show. Spotify reviews are a little wonky where you have to at least listen to part of an episode before to let you review, but you can play it on mute if you don't want to actually listen to the episode over there. Just give us a 5-star review, because the music podcast charts on Spotify are hella weird.
Yeah, they are.
And I don't understand them. It's like people keep putting remixes and unreleased songs on Spotify as a podcast. They can get around copyright laws.
Right.
Someone keeps putting all of Taylor Swift's unreleased demos on as a podcast, and I'm like, you can't do that. You can't just put her songs up. But that's how they get around it.
And I am putting out another offer. The offer is, if you leave a review and you take a screenshot of it and you tag me on Twitter, not on Instagram this time, Twitter specific. This is a Twitter exclusive deal. If you do that, I will give you a GIF and a compliment based off of your profile picture. So, one-time offer for this month.
Good for the month of February.
Twitter exclusive. So, I feel like the site violently shook me to cover this artist.
It even reached out to me.
Yeah, it went to
weird.
Leah. It went to Leah and said, "Hey, make sure Beth Ann isn't a dumb piece of shit and doesn't do what I say this month," which is odd because originally I was going to cover Meatloaf, and I didn't choose him, and then he died. So table the combo of wondering if I killed him.
No, I think COVID killed him, but
I mean, it's an odd thing. I'm
that
just
is
saying.
weird.
But anyway, it started off with I woke up with an Alanis song in my head, and then I went to the gym and I heard that same song, and it was just very random. I wasn't listening to it. It just all of a sudden popped up. My brain automatically goes, uh-oh, something's up. So I text you and I'm like, I think the site is spoken. And then you randomly had a song in your head.
I had, isn't it ironic or whatever it's called, stuck in my head for an entire day. And I didn't even listen to that song. Yeah. I got in my car to go run an errand for work, and it was rain
on your wedding day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hand in my pocket. And that's the same one that's been playing on repeat at the gym all of a sudden.
They like that song all of a sudden.
That's in the mix this month. And then to really drive the point home, the first thing I see a couple days later while on Instagram is an Alanis shirt that went up for sale at a clothing store I follow. It wasn't a sponsored post.
Yeah.
This was the actual like feed post for that day. First thing I see on Instagram. So it was definitely a hostile takeover. I'm not sure why yet. I'm sure it'll make sense, as it often does. But I am glad to talk about her because I enjoy our 90s episodes. Like, I feel like, I don't know if it's because we were alive then, so we can enjoy the nostalgia a little bit more.
We've got some memory.
Yeah, absolutely. But they're just always the funnest episode.
It's 90s month over here at Shioraku for
it
some
is.
reason.
Light trigger warnings. And by light, I mean I don't have multiples.
Just one.
Just one. There's a little bit of like ED talk, but not that much. But anyway, let's dig in to Alanis Morrisette. Alanis Morrisette, full name, was born in Ottawa, Ontario on June 1st, 1974. She has a twin brother named Wade, who is also a musician and a yoga instructor.
First of all, I always forget she's Canadian.
Yeah.
Second of all, I had no idea she was a twin.
Yeah. Yeah. Both her parents were teachers in the military. So like when she was super young, like up to the age of 6, I think she was in Germany for one point where I think all military people go eventually sometime in their career. But her music endeavor started at age 6 when she started playing piano and singing. She also did some acting when she was in junior high on that really weird kids show. You Can't Do That on Television. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
It's basically all that beta, but like it's the show is fine. Like it's a sketch show with kids, but it's just, I guess, the intro.
So I just made this connection. All that was really Saturday Night Live.
Correct.
Diet. The diet version of Saturday Night Live.
And then some of them grew up to go on to the big boy Saturday Night Live.
Then Keenan just said, I'll do it all.
Yeah, I'll do it anyway. But it had a really creepy like intro where it's like kind of stop motion animation, and anyway, it creeped me out. But we'll come back to that show. We'll come back. So she starts playing piano at 6. And then she's just like, let me go record a demo at 9 years old.
Aww.
And she sends it to MCA Records in Canada. And the main exec said over there that her voice is, quote, promising, but declined to sign her because, quote, what am I going to do with a 9-year-old?
I mean, that is fair.
But, good for you, Alanis. You shot your shot.
Yeah.
And you went for it. I'm proud of her for that, and it's good she learned that rejection then, because a lot of us don't learn that.
Yeah,
well, some of us more than others learn that rejection, depending on your range of popularity in school. If you were a theater kid, you learned that quite young.
Not if you were a 3 as a theater kid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So in 1987. She met entertainment manager Stephen Cloven, helps her land a gig at the 1988 World Cup of Figure Skating with Leslie Howe, who was in a synth pop group at the time and was backing her up. She sung "O Canada," which is interesting because it's synth pop with "O Canada." Interesting mix. But Cloven really wanted Morissette to make that connection with Howe because she really thought like you can help her get ready for Star Search, the greatest 80s talent competition. Oh my
God.
She did end up being on it, but like that they decided, let's go record deal way. So they went that direction. So she goes back to old MCA Records. She's 16, not either 14 or 15 at this time, but they do sign her.
Go good.
As she's getting ready, though, to record her album, keep in mind, she's 14 or 15. The studio pressures her to lose weight, which is just dumb.
That is dumb.
Dumb. I mean, it's dumb regardless of age, but especially at 14 or 15.
Yeah.
Dumb. And this leads to her becoming anorexic and bulimic, which she goes to therapy for. I already said that. She also has a crazy schedule up to this point. Keep in mind, she's still in school. So the the next 2 albums that we'll talk about, she's still in high school. Like
Dang.
she's in a public school, I'm assuming, doing life. And her schedule is she goes to school, she comes back from school, she goes straight to the studio, stays up till 3 or 4 a.m. recording and writing, repeat.
Holy shit.
Like, how did that get greenlit?
That's not healthy.
No, I mean, like, when we've covered that before, usually cocaine's in the picture, but they're not giving cocaine, I don't think, to a 14 or 15-year-old unless they're pulling a Judy Garland and putting her on cigarettes.
And they're also not going to
Barbarites.
school usually.
Yeah.
That's one extreme extracurricular activity.
Yes, quite. Anyway, her first album drops in 1991, and it's called Alanis, in the vein of Selena. Reminded me of that. And it was co-wrote with Leslie Howe. Now, this is a pop synth album. Keep in mind, grunge is there, but she's not grunge yet. So it's very pop synth, almost in the vein like a Paula Abdul kind of, that kind of genre. I don't know what genre that is other than a Janet Jackson, Paula Abdul genre. But I went and listened because I was like, how's that going to work with her voice? Because she has a very unique voice. And surprisingly, it works super well. Like,
I want to listen to this album.
Well,
now.
I was like, at first I was like, did she change her voice? Because people will do that, and that's completely fine. If anything, it shows range. But it's exactly the same voice she sings in, and it works in an odd way. That album only released in Canada, and it did go platinum. So it did really well in that industry. But it did receive like some mixed reviews from critics. Do we give a shit about the critics here?
No,
we do not. And like I said, commercially, it's a hit. The biggest singles from that album are Too Hot and Feel Your Love and Walk Away, which stars Matt LeBlanc playing pool and flirting with Alanis.
That's amazing. This was pre-Friends?
This is pre-Friends. Okay. This is young Joey.
Oh, baby Joey.
Yeah, baby Joey. But I thought that was cute. In August of 1992, she puts out another album called Now Is a Time. And I got to show you this album cover because it is so 90s. Like, it almost hurts me.
I can picture the word art now.
You know it. It's going to confirm in your head, I guarantee.
Why were we obsessed with brush fonts as a society in the 90s?
It's similar to a brush font.
Everything I can picture from the 90s has that stupid brush font with like a drop shadow. Ooh.
But I've seen
so many
that.
albums have that exact composition.
So what it is, it's that it's basically has...
It's a split tone background behind a square photo.
With a square photo in the middle. You've seen it.
Yeah.
You've seen it a million times.
I can't name another album that has that exact cover, but I can picture it. It's purple.
Yes.
I don't know what album I'm thinking of.
So anyway, it's called Now's the Time. It's more ballad based. It wasn't really received very well and only sold half of her first album. So after those 2 albums, MCA Records is like, our contract's fulfilled, and they move on without her. History will show this is a bad move.
I have a feeling.
Because in 1993, she meets manager Scott Welch, and he convinces her to move from Ottawa after she graduates to Toronto, help her career, work with a different group of people. And after the MCA thing, there was an interview I read, and she said, I'm okay to paraphrase, like she was like, I'm okay that this happened because you need like a clean slate anyway. So she was completely down to try new ways of doing music. So once she's in Toronto, she meets a producer by the name of Glenn Ballard. There's just like an instant connection between the two. According to Ballard, within 30 minutes of meeting, they were already in the studio experimenting with sounds. And within an hour, they had already wrote the first song.
Jeez.
And there began this amazing writing partner, Alanis and Glenn. So like I mentioned, she is looking for a new slate. She's ready to get out there. She's 20 years old, has 2 albums under her belt. is accomplished. Was on Star Search and on TV. But anyway, she's like, it's time for a new direction in my life and a new theme for this album. What does she have? Angst? Check. Unhappy relationships? Check. Which genre perfectly encapsulates that message?
It is 1993.
If you guessed alternative rock and post-grunge, you are correct. So in 1994, they start working on the album. They're recording some demos of it, which is recorded in 12 to 16-hour shifts, which is just an insane schedule. But at least she's out of school.
Yeah, she's not going to school and trying to do homework.
This is her, full-time job. They also recorded both the demos and I believe the professional ones, but don't quote me too much on that, in like 1 to 2 takes.
That sounds about right. That's actually, I'm learning that's a more common thing because usually the first couple takes is the best.
Yeah.
You get very tired.
Because then you get in your head after the third or fourth. There's a lot of truth to that.
And it becomes very automated.
Yeah. So they record some demos, which also, fun fact, the demo vocals were kept for the professional produced albums, which is kind of nuts because I was listening to the album today and there's like not a flaw in her voice. Not a damn flaw, which is not what you always get with demos.
No.
Not what you always get. So they start shipping it to studios. All came back with rejection letters.
Damn.
Except for one, Maverick Records, which was co-founded by Madonna. So that's a good choice. Now, so they're recording. They also bring in Dave Navarro and Flea to help with it. Yes. And I think this is when Dave Navarro, he was either with or about to be with Red Hot Chili Peppers. So like they basically were like, hey, we have these songs, but we need like riffs.
Flea was like, I got you, man.
Flea was like, do you need a trumpet too?
I love Flea.
I do too. And so, yeah, like they came in for a good chunk of the album. So like a lot of the solos and things you hear is like Flea and Dave Navarro.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And then after, like right before the album dropped, Maverick did something very interesting. They go to MCA Records and they say, hey, stop circulating her last 2 albums. Because they knew how different this album was going to be, which is Jagged Little Pill. But, one thing I also want to point out, and I love that she said this, because the thing with Alanis, she's very transparent. She is who she is, and that's what you're going to get, which is very refreshing to see in the music industry. And when I guess it was an interview where someone was questioning her about her first 2 albums, and a lot of people tend to be like, oh, those were nothing, to kind of brush off to the side. And she said, no, like that's a part of who I was. That was a version of me, and that's completely fine, and I don't regret it one bit. And I love that. Pantera should have listened.
Yeah, you can change and adapt as you figure out what you're doing.
And for those who don't know, Pantera started as a glam metal artist, and then moved to the groove metal. But you can listen to our Pantera episode about it. They are adorable. They're so cute. I have a very long story about that one. But like I mentioned, this album has some themes. Anger and relationships, to critiques about the Catholic Church. I'm always here for a Catholic Church critique, personally. And then female sexuality, ED issues, since she had that experience. Very reminiscent of the Riot Girl movement in like mission and themes. Like it almost feels like a ceiling to floor thing. Yeah. Because Alanis is just taking that kind of movement and inspiration from it and bringing it on more of a global stage, but a little bit more pop. It's definitely not full grunge. It's honestly not even full like alternative rock. Yeah. It's an alternative rock post-grunge pop sound. Yeah. And that's why it did such a good job appealing to the masses, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, the album's called Jagged Little Pill. It does not have a song titled that on the album, but it is pulled from a lyric in the song We Learn. According to Urban Dictionary. Reason it's also called that, because it's another phrase of saying a hard to swallow pill. The main hits from that are You Oughta Know, Ironic, Hand in My Pocket, Hand to Feet. We also, I want to talk about a couple of these songs because I feel like they're important. But we're going to start with one because we have a You're So Vain-esque moment happening here. Mainly around the song You Oughta Know. For those who don't know what that song is about, on the surface level, it's about Alanis, or a girl, we're assuming it's Alanis, you know, break up, they moved on to a different person really quick, and it's like, I'm here to remind you of the mess you left behind to go to that new person kind of thing. Remember how I told you about you can't do this on television? Here's the scoop. Alanis starred in 5 episodes. In that show, there was a segment called Out of Control hosted by Dave Coulier from Full House.
I forget that he's Canadian too. What the hell?
Yes. Dave and Alanis dated when she was 17 or 18 and he was 33.
Ew.
Now, you know, for the sanctity of the children listening, I had to put on my detective hat and I had to put on my She Will Rock You priestess hat and find out how the hell did they meet? Was it on this set? Because that's a problem. I have a problem. I need a button that says, that's weird. That's weird. That's weird. So after about 35 minutes...
We should make a sound effect.
We should. That's weird. After 35 minutes of combing through articles and videos.
I love the dedication to this.
Well, literally, I went on to some of the most gossipy articles too. That just like they pose like news, but they are just not well written.
Yeah, they're just
all.
like
it's
some
just
dude's
garbage
opinion.
writing. I am happy to report that they did not meet on that set. So good. Instead, they met at a hockey game, which is like Canadian Tinder, I am told. And I can further specify that Out of Control aired from 1984 to 1985, and Alanis was on in 1986. Okay. So there's a very good chance they did not meet then, because that would have been hella weird, because she's in like junior high school.
Yeah.
And he's like in his late 20s or mid 20s probably at that point. Anyway, so they dated in 1992. They broke up.
Still
Alanis
weird.
writes, You Oughta Know. In an interview I watched with Dave Coulier, he said how he found out about the song is he's in his car and hears the song come on the radio and he's like, this is a damn good song.
Oh no.
Who is it by? Well, your ex wrote it, David.
Oh no.
And I want to throw out a potential quote in here from the Daily Mail that Alanis Morrisette said about this song. She said, I didn't write this song to seek actual revenge. I'm all about revenge fantasy. Revenge is an art. Go for it. But Dave Coulier is fully convinced this song is about him.
Hey, the shoe fits.
But Alanis said she will never tell who it's about. And it's like 6 guys have previously claimed, nope, it's about me. It's about me. Brings up a point of discussion. Why are guys so obsessed with songs being about them? Like, sure, it's publicity, but bro, can you just shut up and let the woman tell a story?
No.
God damn.
No.
Like, so anyway, there's that segment. And then let's move on to her most popular song, which is Ironic. And let's get a little more wholesome because we'll talk about the history, but I got to talk about my experience hearing this song for the first time. Like I said, we were in the 90s. I was actually in the 2000s when I heard it, but I was on the school bus. It was either 5th or 6th grade. I don't know which one it was. My friend Amber, who was on the bus with me, our bus driver gave her a copy of the CD. Which now I'm thinking about her song You Oughta Know and talks about going down on a guy. Probably not.
Yeah, not a good choice for a bus driver to get children.
Not the best option, but I appreciate where her heart was at. But she showed me a copy of the song Ironic. She's like, you got to hear this girl. Her name's Alanis Morrisette. And I listened to Ironic on her Walkman on the bus.
Back in the day.
Let me tell you, Little Beth Ann's, that was her anthem for the school year. That song, outside of my experience, the song was huge. It went gold. It was her highest peaking song, surprisingly only reaching number 4, because I really consider her like of the 90s, like kind of a legacy artist in that regards, but only reached number 4 on Billboard 100. Her music video is definitely worth highlighting because it is very iconic. And in the music video, like she's in a car driving around and there's like 4 different versions of her and they're all wearing a different sweater except for the person in the front seat driving. It's a really awesome music video. It's definitely like, like how there's these 90s music videos and it's just these facial expressions. You can't exactly place it why, but something about 90s facial expressions.
And that weird green filter they put on everything.
And the weird fucking green and the yellow filter.
I don't know why
yellow or green. She has in her, you ought to know, it's a big ass yellow filter.
Everything's yellow or green for some
with the frame rate
unknown reason.
Completely choppy.
And bad sunglasses.
Terrible sunglasses.
Why were your sunglasses so tiny?
Terrible.
They were not blocking the sun.
Anyway.
That's because of the Matrix. I'm going to blame that directly on the Matrix.
You know what? Honestly, there's probably some truth to that because then leather came in.
Yes.
Really hot.
And the weird hairstyle where you'd pull your hair back, not with butterfly clips, with the tiny
tiny little black ones.
Yes.
To make Trinity. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%. One last quick sidebar about this song. Ironically, it has some controversies. See what I did there? That will not be my only ironic joke, by the way. So first, the actually nerds got their glasses and their Merriam-Webster dictionary out and said, well, actually, the situations brought up in the song do not qualify as the definition of ironic.
Shut up, neckbeard.
And literally, this was a point of conversation for a while.
That sounds right.
In the 90s. Do I care? No. It's a banger.
Songs don't have to make complete sense.
Yes. Correct. Let it be. It's art. It's art. Second, after 9/11, the Clear Channel Communications, which is now known as iHeartRadio.
Yeah, fuck iHeartRadio.
iHeartMedia. Sent out a memo banning certain songs that had questionable lyrics. This happened to be one of them because, there is a segment about the plane going down. Yeah. And he says, well, isn't that nice? Yeah. But basically anything with planes or death, they blocked knocking on heaven's door, things like that. A bunch of these songs got banned.
Post 9/11 US was a weird place.
And I bring this up because I got a little mad because completely unrelated, they included all of Rage Against the Machine's discography.
They've been waiting for this opportunity and they were just like,
we need an American tragedy.
They were like, you can only play Toby Keith. Move on.
What a cheap shot, man. By the way, you can hear more about Rage Against the Machine in our Rage Against the Machine episode. Anyway, so those are the stories about those songs. As far as the reception of this album, originally upon the release of the album, the studio just wanted to sell enough copies to justify making another album. It was not global domination. It was not the goal. But it exceeded that expectation of just enough to get by. How it started was a radio station in Los Angeles picked up the song You Ought to Know, and honestly it was just a snowball effect from there. It just became this juggernaut of an album. It's hitting all the charts, including in 13 different countries.
Dang.
It's also on the wiki page for one of the best-selling albums of all time.
Dang.
Because it sold 33 million albums. So yeah, it's quite a hit for her. At the age of 21.
She's set for life.
God. It also was listed at the holiest of thou numbers on the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time at number 69.
Nice.
Nice.
Is this the 2020 list?
It didn't say, nor did I click the hyperlink. Which is really funny because she has a lyric in one of her songs. It's Wine and Dine in 69.
Hit. Someone at Rolling Stone did that on purpose. They're like, we could put it here or here. And they're like, you got to make it 69.
You got to put it there. You got to put it. And then Rolling Stone also dubbed her as the queen of alt-rock angst, which is interesting because Madonna, who started the record label, was queen of pop. And it's like another crown being passed on. So when it came around to award time, she was nominated for 9 Grammys, won 5, including Album of the Year. We'll talk more about like the legacy of this album later, but one thing I wanted to point it out was like this album just opened a ton of doors for women, especially in the alt rock scene. And I would consider like in that rock pop area. So like Tracy Bonham, Avril Lavigne, Katy Perry, like that kind of style. So after the beast that is Jagged Little Pill, she starts working on her next album. And I want to preface, because it's going to be more of a flyby for a few reasons. There's more to her career I want to cover, but also these unfortunately kind of just came and went. It's hard to cover albums that just come and went. Also keep in mind, she sold 33 million albums. When that happens, the media is never fair to you.
The bar is very high.
The bar is very high. You will not cross it, and that is completely fine. But then, like, no one talks about the other shit, and it's unfair. But that, unfortunately, is what happened in this situation. But I am going to highlight them briefly. So we're going to start with her 1998 album called Supposed Former Infatuation Junkie.
That's a title.
It is a title, yeah. Some critics claim, because it didn't sell that well. I mean, once again, you're not going to get across that threshold because of the title, because it was too wordy. Maybe, I don't know. Who knows? But the biggest hit from that album was called Thank You. After the release of that album, she performed at a little event / shit show called Woodstock 99. I have to talk about it for a few seconds because there's a documentary about Woodstock 99 on HBO Max, and they show part of her performance. And one of the things they talk about, first, there was only 3 female acts at that event.
Sounds about right for the 90s, to be honest.
And it's a 3-day event, so each one's on one of those days. So Alanis...
The token female act each day.
I think it was... I'm not sure, but Alanis was Saturday, so the middle day. And then it was Jewel and Sheryl Crow. Second, the lineup for Saturday night is just a weird mix. And I'm sure a lot of you know, as history tells, like, there was a lot of violence at that. A lot of sexual assault and people getting away with shit that's like there was an insane amount of sexual assault that was happening. Like some idiot thought it was a good idea to put the men's showers and the women's showers next to each other and only have them separated by a tarp.
That's not gonna work.
No, it did not.
Also, I mean, that aside, people are just gonna have sex in those showers anyway.
Right. And there would be like, you know, they had their police officers in his peace patrol who got no training. And
they're like, hey, Joe off the street, you want a job? Cool, let's go. You start tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. So like all this shit is going down. They're like, all right. Like they didn't do anything to fix it. But anyway, so I bring that up because there's a lot of tension building on that Saturday. And there's a reason why, because here's the lineup. Counting Crows, ironic. Dave Matthews Band, not as ironic.
They are from here, though.
They are from here. That is ironic because they're from Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Alanis Morrisette, Limp Bizkit, Rage Against the Machine,
God,
Metallica.
They just got heavier and heavier.
They literally, because think about the crowd dynamic. This is something I have given the speech on this.
You can't mix groups.
You cannot mix certain groups. It is for the safety of the audience.
You can't mix Limp Bizkit fans with Metallica fans.
Trust me, I wish we could
cannot
coexist. It does not exist in the rock community, and it's a shame, but that is the truth. And so after Alanis plays, and her music does have, you know, some rock, but it's pretty chill for the most part compared to what's coming up. The crowd is just super like angsty. Like they are just, and that is why I believe what went down is the lineup did not help. It's not the main reason, but that did not help because you literally just have people like just raging inside. So anyway,
Against the machine.
Mm-hmm.
The machine being Woodstock 99. We solved it, guys.
But yeah, so it's definitely worth watching that documentary. But let's move on to her next albums. They include Under Rug Swept. That was 2002. It was her first album where she wrote solo.
Huh, good for
That's
her.
pretty cool.
Did the guy from Blur harass her about it?
No, not yet. Well, we'll see. It's early yet. I saw he had to apologize.
His apology was shitty. I
didn't read it. I just saw the Twitter
time.
headline.
We can talk about that in the next episode if we want.
So-Called Chaos in 2004. Flavors of Entanglement in 2008. Havoc and Bright Lights in 2012. And her last album was Such Pretty Forks in the Road in 2020. She had a tour for it. She had to postpone a lot of it because of COVID. But there is an opportunity. If you want to see Alanis, you can. But along with her album work, she also, like I said, this is what I like about Alanis. She is who she is. But she also is like not serious all the time. And I appreciate an artist who's secure in who they are and can also enjoy a good laugh and poke fun at themselves. Like when the whole ironic thing was going, she was just like, whatever. Like it didn't bother her. It didn't faze her. So one of my favorite examples of this is she did a cover of My Humps from Black Eyed Peas. You know the song, the one you danced to in middle school, but twerking wasn't quite a thing. So it was this awkward rump shake in the corner with your friends.
And you thought you were so dirty for doing it?
Yes.
It was very terrible.
Yes, it was. And yes, the chaperone in the corner was judging you.
Yes.
100%. 100%. So she takes this song and she slows it down and makes it a piano ballad. And girl, does she belt out, sadly, what are you going to do with all that junk? All that junk inside your truck.
I gotta listen to this. We'll listen to this afterwards.
Because the music video, dear God, the National Recording Registry Library needs to put this video in for cultural significance and preservation. So they're spoofing the original video. But the way the video I saw, it's very grainy. You know, the frame rate's not quite there. It is a time capsule of 2000s Deb fashion.
Oh.
And like that type of comedy of 2000s when you're doing a spoof.
It's when we first discovered like memes.
Yes.
And that.
Yes. And then the joke just kept going and it doesn't get funny after 6 seconds.
Peak humor was college humor.
Yes.
Which still exists for some unknown reason.
Yeah. It was interesting because they did a video about ironic in a College Humor 2012 video. Anyway, but it was just peak 2000 fashions, hoop earrings, those tube tops that kind of like the dresses that tapered down at the bottom were straight.
That
so it made this
not a
bubble,
good look.
The bubble effect.
That was not a good look.
The bomber jackets you find at Deb's, like the side bangs that were like full bangs, but you kind of just swept them a smidge.
Those.
Yeah. I had them at some point too.
I have them again now because I'm growing out my current bangs.
Nice. So when Fergie heard it, she showed her approval by sending Alanis a cake. The cake was butt shaped.
I love that so much.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So along with music, she also did some acting as well. Like most of it's just like Alanis as herself, but some of it's like kind of some real roles. Some roles were in shows that included Degrassi, The Next Generation,
Canadians,
Weeds, Nip Tuck, The Great North, which she still has a reoccurring role on. And then my favorite role, where she was in Kevin Smith's Dogma, and she played God. Now, I have never seen Dogma, but I concur that God is at best a woman and at its greatest Alanis Morissette.
Yes.
Thank you, theologians Kevin Smith and Ariana Grande, for reminding us.
Yes.
As far as for legacy, so we're going to, like I said, not a lot to fully cover in this episode, But she is a 90s icon. She did open a lot of doors for that modern pop rock sound that we would have. Jagged Little Pill is such a defining album of that time.
It's a musical now.
And it's a musical. That's where I was going.
Oh.
They did anniversary albums of it, and then it became a musical that it was nominated for like 15 Tonys or something like that. It's
blown up. I think it's done better than anyone really expected.
Yeah, because they wrote an original story for it.
Yeah.
And that is going to be turned into a book. So that's interesting.
I hope it's better than the Dear Evan Hansen book.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, that is Alanis Morissette. Not a super long one, but a fun one indeed.
Yeah.
Fun topic. We're just drinking water because
we had nuggies.
We had the nugs.
Thanks for listening. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Good Pods. A special thanks to Death of Fawn for our intro riff. You can visit our website at shewillrockyou.com. There you'll find links to our socials, all of our show notes, ways to contact us, and you can buy our merch. And remember, don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs.